And like, I know talking is unnecessary, but also words are my love language. So please just like fucking speak your truth.
It's completely oversold. It's full of deception, full of lies. I'm not saying that there's no benefit and no value in it. There is definitely, but they're really not honest in how they're selling it and presenting it to people.
Is Brian Rose the most dangerous man in Britain? Well, I don't bloody know, do I? But we're about to find out.
All right, I am super excited because this is going to be a massive day for London Real, for our human rights, for our civil liberties, for freedom of speech.
In truth, laws are always useful to those with possessions and harmful to those who have nothing, from which it follows that the social state is advantageous to men only when all possess something and none has too much, end quote. Today, we're going to look at some of the headlines from a very unsocial state. Can revolution be far behind? And when you mention revolution, Stacey, I think you've got to include Russell Brand.
Russell Brand is the revolutionary.
He's the man of the revolution. Russell, welcome to the Kaiser Report.
I'm very grateful that you had me here on the Kaiser Report, your program. Thank you very much, both of you.
Absolutely. Stacey, what is happening? Well, we will respond accordingly.
So after 5 years of a financial crisis,
My story begins like all great stories do, and that is with Sir Richard Branson. I was staying at his private chalet in the Swiss Alps in a small town called Verbier, and this place comes complete with an ice rink, spa, indoor pool, and an outdoor jacuzzi. And I was there with 40 of my clients and colleagues celebrating a great year in the banking industry. We were all from the City of London Financial Center. And we were sitting back, having our après-ski drinks after having a long day on the slopes. And the fireplace was roaring and the jacuzzi was steaming. And you can feel the buzz of the evening as we were trying to figure out what restaurant to go to, what club to hit afterwards. And I realized that I finally had everything I had been working my entire life for. What my parents had wanted, what my university had promised me, and what I knew would finally make me happy. And that, quite frankly, was money and a successful career. And I went to pour myself a glass of champagne, and I got a text from a buddy in London. And he said, "How's the ski?" And so I looked around at all these people and out through the window, and I remember the pine trees and the snow coming down right around sunset. And I paused and I wrote back, "I've never been surrounded by so many people and felt so alone." And 3 months later, I walked into the office of my managing director and I resigned from my position of 10 years. I didn't want to do that work anymore. And I had no job, no prospects, and was absolutely terrified about what would come next. Little did I know that 3 years later, I would be 1 degree of separation from the most powerful man in the world. Now, I'm not sure if you know this, gentlemen, but his name is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He is an astrophysicist. You might know him as the host of the show Cosmos. And right here, I had just finished a one-on-one interview with him. We had just spent an hour together, and we had a meeting of the minds. It was a fantastic time and one of the highlights of my life. And I tweeted this picture out, and a few days later, I was checking his Twitter feed to see if he retweeted. And Neil trumped me by posting this picture.
And I just thought of this question just now, but there's been, I want to ask you, as a fellow banker, as an American also, there's been a spate of banker suicides, in the last year or so. People they're suicide, they're getting killed, and to me, it's people have a conspiracy theory about it. But for me, I think these are bankers that never transitioned away from something that was killing them, being in the soulless derivatives market. What do you think? Would you agree with that, or how do you see it?
I would totally agree with that. So I'm giving a TED Talk in January, and part of me is talking about the fact that I just wasn't happy. It is a soulless existence. There's no community. You're not creating anything. And that's the thing that I think a lot of guys run into, especially when they're told their whole lives that once you become a banker, once you make all this money, you're going to be happy. And ultimately, you're just not. And so that's why I think I went running away from it, because there's no innovation, there's no creativity. That's why being in the tech space is a lot of fun for me. It's the innovator's dilemma for a lot of these banks. They have these markets locked down and they don't want anybody to touch them, as you know.
Do you want your country taken over by the Americans? No, I didn't think so. Keep it British.
By the way, if anyone here is in advertising or marketing, kill yourself. Just a little thought. I'm just trying to plant seeds. Maybe one day they'll take root. I don't know. You try. You do what you can. Maybe one day they'll take root. I don't know. You try. You do what you can. Kill yourself. Seriously, though, you are due. No, really. There's no rationalization for what you do, and you are Satan's little helpers, okay? Kill yourself. Seriously. You're the ruiner of all things good. Seriously. No, this is not a joke. He's going to be a joke coming. There's no fucking joke coming. You are Satan's spawn, filling the world with bile and garbage. You are fucked and you are fucking us. Kill yourself. It's the only way to save your fucking soul.
Dan is a cunt. He really is. Truly a cunt. And I also love Dan Pena very, very much. And if he died right now, I would be at his funeral and I would really, really mourn his passing. Because Dan has a wonderful amount of energy that he gives to the world and he has yet to give to the world. I don't think he always knows how to deliver it, but also if you look at Dan, he is very selfish and egotistic and he's got the car and the rolls and the castle and it's about him and the $50 billion man. But what does Dan do?
Because you can't put the BBC out of business because they'll tax you and throw you in jail unless you pay them for the media that they create that is censored by the government. So it was my inside joke as well. And I let it ride for a while, and I haven't used that slogan in a while. But it's fitting today, because today I am on the front page of the BBC website, alongside London Real. But curiously, we're not mentioned. There's a screenshot of one of my guests in my studio. There's a talk about how the host did this and didn't do this, how he had 65,000 people live streaming yesterday. But there's no mention of me or the show. This is not the first time this has happened. The BBC has featured guests that went on Dancing with the Stars and other very important news that your tax dollars are paying for. And they also didn't mention me or the show's name. And you know what? That's okay. Fuck the BBC. I never needed you. Never will need you. But it's interesting. And if you read the tone of the article, the BBC is implying that they forced YouTube to take down our live stream yesterday with David Icke that went deep into coronavirus, COVID-19, the relationship of that to 5G technology, to vaccines, to the lockdown, to the economic crisis, and to seizing your human rights, whether it could be your location, your data, and even your right to earn an income, was how we're losing our rights and we're acquiescing to the state grabbing these things, like our mobile data, which has been taken from us without request. We're officially on lockdown. Thank you, man. Appreciate, man. The people want to see London Real, all right? The people don't want the BBC bullshit. And I've been getting props from everybody when I run here, and we're on lockdown. And I'm still getting people giving me that Tyler Durden, thank you very much, sir, don't eat the food, sir, type of stuff. So somebody wants to watch this. And so we were talking about the very human rights that were going to be taken away during this lockdown that are happening right now. Your right to work, your right to choose where you want to go. You're on house arrest, if you haven't noticed, but you're in so much fear that you don't question it. We're in this state of paralysis and fear. And there's one 60-something-year-old man that's saying his opinion. We're going to have some swag coming soon, and we're also going to be announcing our grand plan here to fight back, because no one can stop us.
Well, clearly Fortnite has made a pretty big impact this year, including all of the dances. And one of the most popular dances is, of course, as we all know, the floss. And we are about to try to get 1 million people right now here together. Can you give everyone some pointers? Like, what's the strategy here?
Honestly, but we got something big coming that I'm going to announce in the next few days that's literally going to break the internet. It's going to break it in half. And my plan is to get 1 million people together at one point to celebrate our right to freedom of speech. That is the plan. And to do it London Real style. But I can only do it with your help. It's going to require the entire London Real army all around the world to make this thing happen. But, you know, I just can't help myself, you know? I can't go quietly. I can't roll over, and I will not roll over. And
so wet. So wet. It's so awesome. Should we count down? Are we going to get some tunes on?
Absolutely ready?
And 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Hold up. Come on, baby. We got no one. Come on, man. I want to see the crowd. Get it going. You got it? You've been working. I'm like hitting my wife for you. Wait, you want to come up? Everyone flock, let's get it. Come on, baby. Show me what you got. Show me what. Just move. If you got no one, just move. It's all I want to see some movement. I'm not seeing enough movement. Oh my God. It's not that big. Oh my God. It's not that big. Oh my God. It's not that big. Oh my God.
Thing happen. I know I'm talking a little bit, speaking in parables here, but it's going to be coming out this week.
So I'm a Seventh-day Adventist Christian, and part of our fundamental beliefs is an idea that Jesus is coming again soon.
I think that the way that you handle yourself before you were the Jesus Christ of freedom of speech and people loved you and you were this huge deal, how scammy you handle yourself with these courses, I think it shows a lot about your character. And I think that's very indicative of what you're doing right now.
You can volunteer to donate. You can be on the front lines fighting if you want, or you can be fighting for someone else's freedom who's in the back with their toilet roll, hanging out, saying yes to all of the government. You can be that person if you want, or you can be the one who's up there fighting and bleeding and dying for the cause. And that's what we're doing, and that's what a founding member is. So if you want to do that, $5 is enough to show us you want to be a part of that.
I don't really know anything about those parts of life. You know. All I know about is Rastafari, and I'm trying bringing this truth to the people.
And we are all so powerful. And let's keep it real, all right? Let's keep it real. And as we say, real recognize real, you know?
So if you're an Army member out there and you see someone, and I've seen about 10 people running through Dickey Park today in the canals of Hackney, everyone's giving me daps and yelling out, and I love it. This weekend, people were screaming out, London Real Army. I walked by some young lads, and they were like calling me a legend in front of my daughter. It was crazy. So real, recognize real. Be real, and go out there and find the real, and to take steps up to the real. This London Real Army is going to be mobilized soon. We're going to use it to build ourselves up, to strengthen ourselves, so we can be 10x the force that we are right now. And that's why I want you to go inside today. I want you to think about yourself. And I'll be releasing more stuff in the next few weeks of how we can start to really build ourselves up from the bottom up and become great in ourselves and build the army at the same time. So there you go. Those are my thoughts after a 10K. Yeah.
So he's gone on this whole free speech, censorship, human rights violation vibe, while simultaneously censoring my platform. Now I've tweeted this guy 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times this morning, and no reply from anyone at London Real, but they're sat there taking down my videos after 2 minutes and 1 person has viewed it. It's a fucking joke.
This is the thing about conspiracies. It's very attractive to people that are schizophrenic.
So
But again, what we fear the most oftentimes is the thing that we should do. Let me say that one more time. What you fear the most is many times a sign of what you actually need to do. And that's something that Tim Ferriss told me when he was on the show many years ago. And it's something I always think about. What scares me the most could be the direction I need to go. Or one of my guests named Ryan Holiday said, the obstacle is the way. The thing that you think is the hardest thing to do or the scariest thing to do is often the thing you need to do. And so I pulled the trigger a few years ago, thanks to my beautiful wife, Mariana, who definitely pushed me to do this, to have our children. And I had already adopted my daughter, my stepdaughter, Gabby, which was amazing. Again, that was a big responsibility, but it ended up paying back 10 times.
Fortune cookie nonsense.
I mean, I won't lie, the guy just absolutely blew my mind. You know, I'll be honest, I've never been someone who's into conspiracy theories. I've never gone down the rabbit hole. If you look at our history here at London Real, I've never really had people on to talk about those things. And yet, honestly, 3 weeks ago, I stumbled upon a lot of controversy by having David Icke on the show. As you know, we had that episode pulled, and things like Ofcom came after us. Ministers of government here came after us. I was deplatformed from other social media, and I was pulled into this vortex. And sitting here talking with Rashid tonight in a platform where we weren't worried about who was listening. We weren't worried about being banned. We weren't worried about being censorship. Honestly, it was unlike any conversation I've ever had in video form because we just didn't give a fuck. So he just started dropping all of this science and knowledge, and he's been researching this stuff for 10, 20 years. He's been, you know, a surgeon. He's been really into the autism movement, and he started taking me down rabbit holes and dropping names and scientific studies and what's actually happening, and it just blew my mind. It's just hard to explain. I mean, look at the way I'm looking right now. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? It's just, it makes me consider the whole world differently and as far as what's going on. And he went big into vaccines and 5G and what it is and what happened in Wuhan and what happened in a lab in North Carolina and all sorts of other stuff. But again, you can watch that on our platform, and he went really deep. I think he's probably one of the most pivotal people out there. He's actually been a David Icke fan for a long time. He's actually really good friends with Bruce Lipton, who had been on our platform years ago originally and was on recently, the epigenetics guy. We actually have a lot of mutual friends. He's got a lot of respect for what we're doing at London Real, and he appreciates us for fighting for freedom of speech and for putting this stuff out there because he's sick and tired of the mainstream media. He thinks the mainstream media is the problem. He thinks there's the problem with all the stuff that's happening here. That's me, baby. It's all right. We got this. We got this, man. That's right. That's all good, man. Yeah, keep it real, man. All right, you know what's up. And everywhere. The army's everywhere. All right, thank you, man. And so, you know it, right? And so, this happens all the time, by the way. And so again, just dropping science, and he's really been there and done that and talked about everything. So he appreciates us for what we're doing. I appreciate him for what we're doing. And look, I finally want to say, honestly...
You say, okay, I know that these guys are idiots. I don't really believe in any of that. But if this community, this narrative, and this agenda is going to take me from a couple $100,000 every few months into the billionaire section of having my own media platform, then I'm a conspiracy theorist all the way. Give me the tinfoil hat. I'm going to do this right now. I think he's doing it on purpose, knowing that it's a business opportunity for him. He doesn't give a shit about the truth.
So what's the summary here for David Icke? Well, he's an interesting guy. He's connected with a group of people that may feel disconnected or frustrated by things that are happening in the world, but his theories are generally nonsense, of course. He delivers them in a way that make them seem credible. He uses a lot of technical terminology from science, but really, again, it's just dressed up nonsense, right? So there's no scientific foundation to what he's saying. As far as valuing what he says metaphorically, I can understand how some people might see that, but I guess I get stuck with the whole lizard thing, and really the anti-vaccination and all the other conspiracy theories that he believes in. David Icke does the same thing we see with a lot of conspiracy theorists. He has one of the typical lines, which is if you confront a conspiracy theorist and you say what they believe is not true, they simply say that you're part of the conspiracy. So logically speaking, they kind of get trapped in the circle, right? There's no way to escape it. So there's no way to introduce new evidence for consideration. So, as I mentioned before, David Icke appears to be a flexible, open-minded thinker, but he's not really. He's closed off. Nothing's going to change his mind. No amount of evidence would change his mind. At least that's what appears to be happening.
London Real says he was banned from YouTube, but that didn't happen. I mean, we're going to see that here in a second. So, but why am I really doing this? Well, Brian Rose is going around screaming victim and claiming free speech when, in fact, what he was doing was promoting harmful ideas that were causing violence and destruction of private property in the country where he lives. So Brian is he lives in London, and you know, he drapes himself in the Union Jack. But at the same time, while people in London are burning down cell phone towers and destroying property, he's on the air with the fucking king of the nut jobs, who's pushing a bunch of lies. Now, we're not going to talk about the lies too much, but just be known that everything that David Icke said in that video regarding science, right, and medicine was completely wrong.
Hello, it's I am just feeling something wanting to come through me tonight, and it has to do with a message I would like to send to folks like Bill Gates. I could put a huge list together of all those that I would like to address, but I'm talking like cabal members. I'm talking people that are trying to create a new world order. I'm talking to those that have been manipulating and abusing the human population. I am talking to those that are wrapped up in some sort of covenant with some demonic forces to do all you can to establish further world domination for yourselves and enslavement for the rest of the human race. First off, this is a violation of free will. It's a violation of cosmic and natural law. Yes, we understand the need to play a dark role, but you're taking it way too far. And this is a time on the planet right now where the mother energy and the mother earth planetary consciousness holds true dominion. You do not have the right to do what you're doing. We do not consent. And millions of people have opened their minds up to the research and experiences of many who have uncovered the lies, the deceptions, and the evil corruption and these acts of just the most criminal activity, while supporting putting those in compromised situations that have not even remotely done close to the evils that are being done. It is in violation of cosmic and natural law, and it does not work, and it will not work. You cannot own us, you cannot have us, you cannot control us.
So is there other evidence that would refute this conspiracy theory other than what I've talked about? Well, there is. We see Gates' personality. We see he fears superintelligence, like he's worried about AI, like smart computers that could build robots and other destructive elements. We see he's stockpiled supplies, so like he's kept additional food and water, worried about a pandemic or other crisis in the world. So it would seem that he really shares the same fear as many people, right? If he was really a psychopath and an evil genius, he wouldn't be concerned about all that. Also, I find it interesting that people think that he's involved in this conspiracy theory because this would really be playing the long game. So in 2008 is when he started giving a lot of money to charity. So is this his master plan, to give billions of dollars to eradicate disease? I think he's given $28 billion to charity. He's paid $6 billion in taxes. He's going to give away eventually 99.9% of his wealth. When does he capitalize on this conspiracy theory? So again, this is really the long game. At the time of making this video, Bill Gates is 64. When was he planning on enjoying his time as an evil mastermind in charge of the world? Like, I don't understand why he'd be taking so long to get to his plan. It just seems like a very roundabout way to get somewhere that's relatively straightforward, at least as it's outlined in the conspiracy theory. Also, he doesn't really have any motive. He's already wealthy, he's already powerful. In 2011, he was ranked the 4th most powerful person in the world. Does he want to get to number 3, 2, or 1? Is that really the mission? Like he wants to move up a couple spots? Again, it doesn't make a lot of sense given the type of power he currently has. So if this conspiracy theory is not true, and I think it's quite likely that it is not true, why is it here? What are the mental health and personality characteristics that play a role in developing these types of beliefs? Well, I think that at the top of the list would be fear, uncertainty, and stress.
Quite a good scene, isn't it? One man crazy.
And if you understand that, it will automatically wake you up.
If you have that much confidence and people will just believe what you say, they will follow you. You could be a leader.
Position make you rich? I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life, forever.